Hello and welcome to the Concordance lecture. I'm sorry today, this lecture is going to be boring. Didn't have time to come up with anything interesting to do for you guys today. So we're just going to do a straight lecture.
What kind of old lady are you?
Well, apparently I am not the interesting kind because I'm going to do a really boring lecture today. So here we go. This is Concordance.
Boring!
I told you it would be. A little bit of review. What do we know? Well, we should know that dizygotic twins means two zygotes. So what happens if you have two zygotes? That means you have two eggs and two sperm to make two zygotes. Completely different, just like any other siblings. They just happen to be in the uterus at the same time. Monozygotic or identical twins, those guys came from the same zygote. So we talked a little bit earlier when we had the blastocyst and the inner cell mass. Sorry, my little guy's not working. We really, when we talk about, oh, the egg split, blah, 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 what actually happens in monozygotic twins is that the inner cell mass, remember this guy, my pen's not working, this guy, where the embryo comes from, remember the outside stuff, this is the trophoblast, that stuff becomes the placenta. What actually happens in monozygotic twins is that the inner cell mass splits into two different embryos. So it's not the whole blastocyst usually, unless the split happened very early before the blastocyst formed, which again is very rare. Remember we talked about that ball of cells, right? Just that ball of cells before it formed anything. All of these are embryonic. Stem cells super early, like day one after fertilization, and it is possible that these split into two, and then they'd each make their own trophoblast, and each would have its own inner cell mass, and that would still be monozygotic twins. Super rare that this happens. Almost always they share a placenta if you're a monozygotic twin. So sometimes that's how they can tell at birth which one is which.
Oh my god, who the hell cares?
Hey, that's rude, we care, we love science. Okay, back to this. What's a concordant trait? Something that's just shared. If it has concordance, it's shared between them. So in our case, we use the word concordance for the percentage of twin pairs that are the same for a trait. So, for example, we can look at table 6.2 and table 6.3, and again, you can always read more in your textbook if you really want to on concordance for even more details. But let's take a look at these.
Boring!
It's not. Stop. So they're saying these would be monozygotic, and these would be dizygotic. These guys are supposed to look much more similar. These guys are like regular old siblings. Hey.
Boring!
Okay, here's a quick question for you guys. Why are monozygotic twins genetically identical, while dizygotic twins only share 50% of their genes on average? Let's take a look at these. And we're going to pause and answer a question in studio. And we're back. Here we go. Yes, what did I just say? Monozygotic twins develop from a single egg fertilized by a single sperm. Dizygotic develop from two eggs fertilized by two different sperm. Just like any other siblings, they're just in the uterus at the very same time. So there you have it, people. Here's our tables if we're looking at concordance of monozygotic and dizygotic. So monozygotic, if you're an identical twin, you have the same genetics. So if genetics are involved in this trait, if it's familial or so forth, then the concordance should be high. They should both share, right? Whereas dizygotic is regular old siblings. You contain half of the genetic, so, right, if it's a genetic trait, it's not necessarily in both. So if we look at these guys, the higher the number, the more likely it is caused by genes rather than environment. And so we see right here, epilepsy is highly concordant, asthma, right? Females heart attack less in males. And then you compare it to what's in dizygotic, right? So these two are not that different, those two numbers. Slightly different, but not a big difference. Whereas these two numbers, highly different. These two numbers, highly different. These are the same. Cancer is probably more environmental in most cases. Yes, there are some familial cancers, but in general, epilepsy, this is huge difference. Infectious disease, the same. Arthritis, huge difference. MS, huge difference. So again, if there's a big difference in concordance in whether monozygotics and dizygotics share, it's more likely to be genetic that way. And if we looked at twins and adoption, that's even more important. That really shows us the environment, especially monozygotic twins. So let's take a look. Oh, well, maybe we should have asked this before we started in on that little adoption picture, but hey, I didn't switch it around, so I guess that was just bad, of me, and I should have done better.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
You're right. I'm just going to move on. Okay, 100% concordance between both monozygotic and dizygotic twins. What can you conclude about the role of genetic factors? We're going to pause. Okay, we're back. Yep, both are important. If it's exactly the same between monozygotic and dizygotic. Now, if it's zero concordance, then, neither is important, which isn't going to happen. Okay, but that'd be like a low, like infectious disease, right? You're going to get it, you're going to get it. Doesn't matter what your environment is, doesn't matter how you were raised, doesn't matter nature, nurture. If you're going to get bubonic plague, you're going to get bubonic plague. All right, moving on. All right, twins and adoption. Back to this. Sorry, here we go. So this helps assess the importance of genes and the environment. And here we go. So if we're looking at BMI, so what's BMI? That's what they do, your body mass index. So, it compares your weight and height. So if they just said, a 50-year-old woman should weigh 130 pounds, well, that would be much different if you're 5 feet tall versus 6 feet tall as a woman. And so BMI takes into consideration height and weight. Doesn't take into consideration muscle mass or big boned, that stuff, but it's better than just looking at weight. So anyways, if you look at comparative from biological parents versus adoptive parents, right? If biological parents are thin, kids are thin, father's thin, kids are thin, father's big, kids are big, mother's big, kids are big. So that's in, your biological parents. So that suggests, if you look like your biological parents, that suggests more of a genetic than environmental. Whereas in the case between adoptive parents, right, thin moms have regular kids, thin dads have regular kids, obese moms have the same weight kids, obese dads have the same weight kids. So there's no consistent association between the weight of kids and an adoptive parent, suggesting it's more genetics than environment. So it doesn't mean there's no environment, but that this BMI is more linked to genetics than to environment. Okay. So what assumptions underlie the use of adoption studies in genetics? So which ones of these, right, would we have to assume is true in order to make these real studies? we're not going to pause because it's pretty obvious that all of the above are correct. So that would be what we'd want to go with. And that's it. We're done. This lecture's over. Thank you so much for watching. Yep. See you later.